To get the full course, visit www.zdub.com. Everyone, welcome to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDub Technologies and Services. So in this video, we are going to introduce ourselves with the basic concepts of the Python language, and we will try to understand that what are its features, where are the fields or where are the places in which Python is used, and what are its advantages, about its history, etc. So basically, this video is going to introduce you to the concepts of Python, to the basic features and characteristics of Python. So let us start this video. The first question is, what is Python? So Python, in terms of computers, is a high-level, interpreted, interactive and object-oriented scripting language. So what does this mean? This means that Python is a programming language, or basically a scripting language, which has different features such as it is high level, it is interpreted, it is interactive and an object-oriented language. If we talk about the history of Python, so Python was developed by a scientist or a programmer called Guido van Rossum, and this development occurred in the late 80s and early 90s. So according to the popular belief, Python is a relatively new language, but that cannot be further from the truth, as Python has been around for around almost 30 years. It was developed at the National Research Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science in Netherlands. It was derived from many other languages, which include some popular ones like ABC, Modula 3, C, C++, Algol 68 and Unix Shell, and some other scripting languages as well. However, the popularity of Python increased tremendously after 2010, in which different libraries were developed and people started to realize the importance of Python and the varied fields where its applications could be found. So you must be wondering that why should I learn Python? So here are few points that may help you to clear your doubt. Python is interpreted. What do you mean by this? So let me just break it to you in a really simple manner. Every programming language that we write, or every code that we write, is actually written in a human understandable form. However, the machines, the computers, understand the binary codes, that is 1 and 0. So there is a requirement of a translator that translates this commands that we understand into ones and zeros for computer and vice versa. So for this process, a program or a tool is used in Python that is known as interpreter. Interpreter performs this translation in a line-by-line fashion, and if we have done any kind of errors, then it displays those errors for us so that we can remove them. That is why Python is said to be an interpreted language. The second feature is that it is interactive. So Python is one of the most beginner-friendly language. The syntax of Python is very similar to what we call the algorithmic structure or the pseudocode. So what is a pseudocode? This we will take a look at just a few seconds later. Right now we can understand the Python as one of the closest language to the normal English. So if you have a good knowledge of English, and a few practice sessions would be enough to get you well versed in Python. Apart from this, it is object-oriented. Object-oriented means it incorporates the feature of classes and objects in itself. So the features of classes and objects, it is one of the most important fundamental features of any programming language. There are many other programming languages such as Java, C++, etc., which are based upon this concept. This concept of object orientation allows more freedom to us, more functionality to us is given by this feature to just perform different operations with our code and to just make it more manageable. Apart from that, Python is considered as the beginner's language. The reason is pretty simple, because Python is very close to the normal English language. So what we can do is we can just easily design the logic in Python. It incorporates very few special symbols. The only important thing that you need to remember in Python is indentation. There are no semicolons, there are no braces, nothing in Python. All you need to know is how to indent your code properly. So there are some of these features which may be enough to convince you to learn Python. However, if you are still not convinced, let me show you some other features of Python. The first feature is that Python is easy to learn. So actually this feature has came up multiple times up till now, but if we just take a look at it once again, then we would understand that okay, why is Python easy to learn? It is because it is very close to the English language or the pseudocode. Pseudocode is actually the code that we write manually, and this is actually containing the actual logic of the program. Then it could be converted into any kind of program. It is programming language independent. That is why Python is easy to learn and easy to read. Also, it is easy to maintain because the size of the Python files is really small, and you can even use a notepad or any text editor to write your Python code. A broad standard library support is provided by Python. We have many of these standard libraries in Python, some of which are used to perform many of the complex tasks. Almost every task, every step that you need to do can easily be found in one of its libraries. That is why the Python has the most extensive library support among all the programming languages out there. It is highly interactive. You can interact with Python in many ways as possible, and the more you interact with it, the more you try to learn it. Apart from this, the Python programming language is portable. That means you can easily run the same code on different machines, or you could just publish your code online. You can just download it and then use it. It is extendable. It supports databases. Now, what is the usage of the databases? Suppose we are developing any kind of a web-based application or a website, which could be done with the help of Python. So, in that case, we want to show some dynamic details to the user. So, it is very much important that we may have a database to store these information. So Python provides a huge support for both structured and non-structured databases. The structured databases include SQLite, MySQL, etc. And non-structured or unstructured databases include support for MongoDB and many others. GUI programming is also supported by Python. GUI programming refers to the graphical user interface programming. So all the applications in which you are provided an interface with which you can interact through button clicks or any kind of mouse or keyboard events, these are known as the part of the GUI programming. We have some libraries such as Stinkter, Pygame, etc., which help us to create applications and games respectively that makes use of this concept of GUI programming. Apart from this, Python is scalable. That means we can easily work with Python and we can easily make use of all of its features. So these are some of the features of Python. There are some of the advantages of Python that we have discussed. We have discussed about its history as well. So that's all for the introductory video in Python, in which we try to just introduce ourselves with the concept of Python and why it is such a popular programming language nowadays. So that's all for this video. In the upcoming videos, we will see that what are all these fields where Python can be used, and what are some of the popular websites which use Python. So thanks for watching. Welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDUP Technologies and Services. In the previous video, that was our introductory video to Python, we understood the history of Python and some of the features of Python. The sole purpose of that video was to introduce yourself to the concept of Python, or why is Python preferred nowadays. In this video, we are going to take a look at the different fields where Python is used. Also, in the previous video, we learned that Python has an extensive library support. So we will be discussing about those libraries and which library is used in which field. So basically, learning Python as a scripting language is just a beginning step. After this, you need to choose a particular field according to your interests, which you can progress further in. So whichever field you choose, the Python language is used in that field. So let us take a look at in which fields Python is used. So here are some of these fields where Python is used. First one is web development. So if we talk about web development, Python can be used to develop web applications that are dynamic in nature. So what do you mean by dynamic web applications? Well, the web applications that can change their content according to the user need or according to the user itself are known as the dynamic web applications. Python can be used to develop exactly that, and it has an extensive library support that helps us to deal with the different web-based protocols. And the other front-end languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and other documentation-based languages such as XML, JSON, etc. So, Python provides us some of the frameworks that help in the back-end development. We have two Python frameworks that are very popular in the fields of web development, known as Django and Flask. Apart from that, Pyramid is also a web framework that can be used to develop online applications. Next field in which Python finds its usage is GUI application development. So Python gives a GUI library to create the user interface in Python-based applications. Now, what are GUI applications? We have already understood. The applications which use the graphics in their interface is known as a GUI, and the applications that have been developed using a GUI is known as GUI applications. So we have the libraries like Tincter and Pygame that could be used exactly for that. Software development procedure is also something that could be supported by Python. Python fills in as a help language and can be utilized to build the control and the management, testing, and many other operations in the whole SDLC, that is software development life cycle. The business applications like ERP and web-based business frameworks could also be developed with the help of Python. The simplicity of Python is what encourages the developers to work with this language, and thus it finds its applications in different fields. Image detection is one of the most important fields of Python. Not only image detection, but image classification and image recognition are also considered to be equally important. A few applications could be created that help us to process the images. Some of the common examples include the detection of people wearing masks and the ones that are not wearing any masks, age classification. There are some applications developed that help in finding the disease just by processing their image, etc. For this purpose, we have a library of Python that is known as OpenCV. Data analysis. If you have heard of this term, data analysis or data science, then you may know that it is the buzzword of the 21st century. Also, data science is termed as one of the sexiest jobs of 21st century. So data analysis and data science fields are basically used to work with data and to gain valuable insights from the data and to visualize the data to find out the trends, etc. For this purpose, we have different libraries in Python that could be used, such as SciPy, Pandas, NumPy, etc. The Python language is mainstream and broadly utilized in logical and numerical registering. Python is one of the most popular programming languages for data analysis and data science. Next field in which Python is used extensively is known as game development. So, if you are fond of video games or creation of video games is what interests you the most, then game development is the field where you can go after learning Python. It is a popular belief that for game development you must know languages such as C and C++, but with the advent of Python, all these myths have been eradicated. Python enables us to create video games by using its library known as Pygame that can be run on Android-based devices. So if you are thinking of game development, then Python is something you should go with. Apart from this, we have machine learning, which is another field of Python. By using the certain libraries from Python such as scikit-learn and TensorFlow, we can use it to make the machines understand various things and learn various things. This field is known as machine learning, in which machines are fed with dummy data, and on the basis of that dummy data, they are used to make predictions on a relatively new data. So apart from this, we have other fields such as deep learning, where Python could be used as well. There are just a few fields where you can use Python, and as you can see, this is the most extensive usage of Python. So I hope this should be able to convince you that if you are planning to learn Python, then it is a right call for you and you should go for it, because once you have equipped yourself with the required knowledge of Python, you can just progress in any of the mentioned fields according to your interest. Now, since we have looked at these different fields, let us take a look at what popular websites are thinking of. That means which popular websites are actually using Python. And you will be surprised to know that they all are using Python. We have a very few examples taken over here, but if you take a look, we have all the major websites such as Instagram, Google, Spotify, Netflix, Uber, Dropbox and Pinterest that use Python. And why do they use Python? Because of its different features that we have just listed, and one of the most important feature is that it helps in the designing of the recommendation engine. So what is a recommendation engine? Actually, when you watch any kind of a show on Netflix or search for anything on, you say, any e-commerce website, then you are bound to get recommendations from them regarding your search, right? So this is what is known as recommendation algorithm, and these recommendation algorithms are actually a part of AI or artificial intelligence, which is another field in which Python finds its usage. So most of the websites have designed their recommendation engines and other important categories, other important things in Python. So this is all that we need to tell you about the background of Python. Now let's get started and let us just learn about how can we use Python for ourselves. How can we start learning Python? So basically in this video we would be using an online IDE, that is AWS Cloud9, to run our Python programs. So how can we set up that IDE? This is what we will be seeing in the next video. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDUP Technologies and Services. In this video, we are going to learn that how can we set up an online IDE. In this case, we would be using AWS Cloud9 online IDE. So to go to that IDE, first of all, you can just Google AWS Cloud9, right? So AWS Cloud9 is actually, as you can see from its description, it is a cloud-based integrated development environment, that means an IDE, that lets you write, run and debug your code with just a browser. So basically AWS Cloud9 is an online IDE that is provided to us by Amazon Web Services. The advantage of an online IDE is that it helps us to write the code in different languages without having to install the separate tools for each of these languages. And apart from this, whenever we just run our code on the cloud, we can simply just have a backup of that code. So we don't need extra storage space on our machine, we don't need to install libraries on our machine, or we don't need to install specific softwares on our machine to just run that code. And also this helps us to easily push our code into any of the version controls systems like Git, GitHub, etc. If we talk about a Cloud9 IDE little bit more, so Cloud9 IDE is an online IDE that was published as open source from version 2.0 until version 3.0. It supports multiple programming languages, which includes the languages such as C, C++, PHP, Ruby, Perl, Python, JavaScript with Node.js and Go. And if we talk about its features, so Cloud9 IDE is written entirely in JavaScript and it uses Node.js on the backend. It was developed by Amazon.com. So basically, if you are planning to work on any of these programming languages, then you can easily use Cloud9 IDE. And one of the most important things, it is free to use for everyone. So let me just show you that how can you work with Cloud9 IDE in this video. First of all, this is the first link that you must follow to go to Cloud9 IDE. So let me just go to this link. Right. So this is the home page of AWS Cloud9. Here you can see all the different features of the IDE is given, and this is how your IDE is gonna look. So this is just like any other IDE, that is what you could use on your machine. Apart from that, there are some of its features that we can build serverless applications with ease. We have direct terminal access to AWS. We can start new projects quickly, etc, etc, etc. So let us just start with setting up our account with AWS. So we can just go to this option, that is sign in to the console. For this, what you need to do is you need to have your account. If you don't have your account, you can just go to this option, that is to create a new AWS account. And this account creation is very simple. All you need to do is just follow the instructions given and give some of your personal details. Now don't worry, because all these details are actually protected by Amazon itself. So you do not need to worry about data privacy at this point in time. Since I have already registered with AWS, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sign in to my account. So let us just provide our email address real quick, and let's just click on next. Now I'm supposed to provide my password, so you can just provide it and click on sign in. Now one more thing that I wanted to tell you, where you are setting up your AWS account, it may ask you for your credit card details, so you can just provide it, but don't worry. Why? Because Amazon will not charge you anything for using its services. It is just for the security and authentication purposes, and if you choose to just go for paid services in future, then Amazon requires your credit card information, right? So once you have signed in, you will get this AWS management console, right? Now to make you familiar with this console, we have some things like this is my account number, and this is the region where my account is registered, right? So right now I'm in Oregon region. You can just select any region as per your choice, right? Now here I have a list of recently visited services, so let me just go to Cloud9. Yeah, so this is Cloud9, and this is what you will see. Actually, not exactly this, but you will see something different from this. Right now, as you can see, I have the environments created. So one environment is already created for me. That is why I'm getting to view all these things. But in your case, the environment may not be created. In that case, you wouldn't be able to see all these things. So let me just show you to how to create an environment. So for this, what you can do is we can just go to delete, and let us just delete this environment. So you need to just write delete and click on delete to delete the environment. Okay. Now we need to wait for a few seconds till the environment is being deleted. So I will meet you after this environment has been deleted, right? Environment is deleted, and now we are getting the option of create environment. Okay, so you would be getting this option straight away, because in case of yours the environment would not be created, right? So for the creation of the environment, what we need to do is we just need to provide its name. Let's just provide Python sample. The description is optional, so I'm just going to ignore it. If you want to provide a description, you can do that. Then it asks us for some of these settings. So these are the default settings provided to us by Amazon. So I'm just going to keep all those settings as it is. Let us just click on next step. Then it confirms all these requirements, or if you want to review these requirements, you can just review them. Then click on create environment. Okay. So this process is going to take a few minutes or a few seconds to set up your environment, and after this procedure is complete, your environment would be set up completely and it would be ready for you to use. So I'm just going to wait for a few minutes, and I will meet you after the environment has been created. Now once your AWS Cloud9 environment has been set up, this is the kind of the page you would be witnessing in front of you. So this page is basically a glimpse or a welcome screen for AWS Cloud9, and here are some of these things that are given to you, right? So if you just want to create a file, you can just create a file. If you want to upload some files from your machine, then you can upload files, or if you want to just clone your files or your repository from GitHub, then this information or this option is also provided to you. Okay. Then we have some of the support options, like if you are stuck somewhere, you can just go for documentation, help, and some of the security practices. Then you have the option to configure AWS Cloud9 according to you. There are these different themes which you can select. There are these different editor themes that you can select, and you can also select a default or any other keyboard mode. right? So I'm just going to go with the default configurations, and I would recommend the same to you as well. However, if you want to change them, you can do that. It's completely fine. Now let us see that how can we create a Python file for ourselves. So actually what happens is, since we know AWS Cloud9 supports Python programming language, that is why it gives us the templates for creating a Python file. All you need to do is go to this file option, and here is this option of new from template. So you can just go to it, and here is this option of Python file. So once we click on this, you can see there is one file called as untitled1.py. This py extension stands for Python. This means that okay, this file is going to be my Python file. So this is the simplest way through which you can create a Python file for yourself on AWS Cloud9. In this video, we actually learned how to set up AWS Cloud9, and then we saw how to just create a Python file. How can we start working with it? This is what we are going to see in the next video. Welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDup Technologies and Services. In the previous video, we have learned to set up the environment for AWS Cloud9, right? So I hope you all have followed the steps up till now, and also you all are able to set up AWS Cloud9, right? So now let us just start working with Python on AWS Cloud9. So for future reference, I would be calling it Cloud9 IDE. So whenever I'm doing that, you please understand that I'm talking about AWS Cloud9 Online IDE. Okay. So this is the kind of the file that would be created for you. Now the first thing that you need to do after the creation of the file is to save it. So let's just go to file and click on save as. Now this is your environment name. If you remember, Python sample was the name of the environment that we gave. So this is your environment name, Python sample, and this readme.md file is automatically created, right? So you do not need to worry about this file. You do not need to make any changes over here. All you need to do is just change the name of your file from untitled1 to anything that you like. So I'm just going to name it as myfile.py. .py is the extension of Python. That's why I'm going to keep it. And let's just click on save. Okay. So now you can see myfile.py is saved. So what will I do is I will just open this myfile.py and I will just close this untitled1.py. Okay. So now this myfile.py is created and it's been opened. Now what you can do is you can just write simple Python commands over here and just try to work with it. Okay. So if you just want to check that if this file myfile.py is working or not, then what we can do is we can just start by writing the simplest of the Python commands, and that simplest of the Python commands is the print command, right? So if you just want to print something in Python, what you need to do is just you need to use the print function in Python. So you must be wondering, what is a print function? A print function basically takes some input or some message from the user and prints it on the screen, right? So what we can do is we can simply just write this word print and in these parentheses, right, within the double quotes or the single quotes, whatever quotes you want, whether it is double quotes or single quotes, you can just write a message. So I'm just going to write hello world. So this is a simple Python code, as you can see. As I already told you that Python is very close to English language in its syntax. So you can see, in order to print anything in Python, what you need to write is just a print keyword or a print function, and within the parentheses you just provide a message. Okay. Now if you want to execute this and see what output it produces, then what you need to do is you can just go to this button and click on run. You can see myfile.py is right now in idle mode and soon it would be in the running mode, right? So now it's been turned into the running mode. Now this is one another advantage of Cloud9, that you would be able to see the different stages through which your program goes before producing the output, right? So right now it is in running mode and it has been stopped, but we are not able to see any output. So let us just see what happened. Why aren't we able to see any output? Okay, so what we can do is we can just make sure to write it in double quotes, or we can just remove these comments. Right, now let us just try to run it. So again it's running. If you want, you can just increase the space of your terminal as well. Okay, so again it stopped. We didn't get any output. So why is that? It is because, as you can see in my file.py, we are getting this kind of a sign. So basically what we can do is press Ctrl S to just remove that sign, which means we have saved this file. Then we can just run it. Now after running it, means after saving it and then running it, we would be able to see the output. Right, so you can see now hello world is printed on the terminal. So this is known as a terminal. Basically whatever inputs you provide from here, they would be run, and whatever output they produce, they would be shown over here. Like a simple hello world, that is a simple message. You can just write any message, and with the help of the print function, that as it is message would be printed over here. So this message is actually in the form of a string. If you just know what string it's, then it's good. Otherwise, what a string is, it is a simple combination of any kind of letters, characters, numbers, etc. You can write anything in single quotes. Suppose I write print, and in the single quote, suppose I write some numbers, some random numbers, right? Now if I just press Ctrl S to save my file and then I just try to run it, then you can see I would be getting hello world, and this whole number, whatever the number I have provided, these two things would be printed on the terminal. So you need to wait for a few seconds to see the output. Here you can see the numbers and the message hello world both have been printed. So basically this is the usage of the print function, and this is how we can just get our outputs on the terminal and they are printed, right? So this is one example of the print function. Right now, if you remember or if you see closely, so we are using this. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so we are using these single quotes for printing this hello world and this number. If instead of the single quotes we use say double quotes, then what happens? Let's say I am writing in Python. Then I can give an exclamation mark. This is basically to show you that we can use any kind of characters as well whenever we are just trying to use the strings. So let us just run it, and we can just wait for a few seconds while it is running. So you can see whatever message I provided, it is printed as it is on the computer terminal. Okay, so this is what the usage of the print function is in Python, and as you can see, it is pretty similar to the English language. Okay, so this is basically to show you that how can you actually work with the very simple function in Python. Now let us see that how can you close this terminal. So suppose you want to close this terminal, what you need to do is you can just go to file and make sure you first close your file. Okay, so you can just click on close from here and your file would be closed, your terminal would be closed. You can see the terminal has been closed from here. Now what you can do is just go to your username or whatever thing you're getting here, whether it is your profile picture or your first letter of the name. Then you can just click on go to dashboard. So it will take you back to your AWS Cloud9 dashboard from where we came over here, right? We can just close this environment terminal. Now this is how your AWS Cloud9 console or the dashboard is going to look like, right? You need to remember one thing is in which region you created your environment. I created in Oregon. So that is why my Python sample environment, as you can see, is present in this Oregon region. If I just change it to something else, like say Asia Pacific Seoul, then what happens is it is going to take a few seconds, and after that my region would be changed, and what effect would it be having on my environment is that I won't be getting any environment, okay? Because whatever environment we create in a particular region, it is specific to that particular region only, okay? And it is not present in any of the other regions. So you need to be careful. You need to know that in which region you have created your environment, and every time you need to just work with that region only, right? So you can see right now I'm in Seoul and I'm not getting any environment, right? I'm getting this option of create environment. If you have no environment in the region, then this is what you're gonna get. So if you want to create environment, you can just follow this option and you would be able to create your environment. However, if I just go back to my Oregon region, so this is my Oregon region. Here what I can do is, you can see there are these this option. I can just click on it, and here is this your environments option. So I can just follow this your environments option, and I would be able to view all of my environments from here. If you want to open your IDE, what you can do is just go to this link, that is open IDE, and your Cloud9 IDE instance would be created or would be opened for you. So that's all for this video. Welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDub Technologies and Services. In the previous video, we saw that how can we use the Cloud9 IDE to create and execute the Python programs online. Also, we learned how to set up the environment. We executed a few Python scripts in this environment. Then we saw how can we restart our environment, right? So this is what we get on restarting our environment. That is, whatever code we wrote there, it is already present over here. That means whatever code we write, it is saved automatically on the cloud. That means no external space is required or no extra space on your machine is required. It is all stored in the cloud. So all you need to do is you need a stable internet connection to just work with the code using the Cloud9 IDE, right? So let me just zoom in a little bit. In the previous video, we learned about the print function in Python, and we just tried to print the strings. But this print function could be used to print anything, any kind of data type, right? There are different data types in Python. One is string, as you can see. The string data type can be used either with single quotes or double quotes to print the data that is written. So whatever data is written as it is printed on the terminal. However, we have other data types, such as for printing the numbers. What we can do is, suppose we want to print 78. So if we just print this in the format of this, that is any number if printed in the format of strings, then we need to enclose it in the quotes, whether it is a single quotes or a double quotes. However, if we just simply print the number like this, you see 78 is printed, so you can see its color is different. That means right now 78 is treated as a number rather than a text. Right now, if I just save this program and try to run it on my terminal, then what happens? So you need to wait for a few seconds till we get this terminal running. Yeah, so now my terminal is starting, and then it would start to run. Okay, so you need to wait till this displays us any kind of output. So yeah, you can see 78 is printed. Although in the terminal it is looking as if everything is same, this number and this number is same, but actually they are different. This first number is treated as a string, and the second number is treated as a number itself. Apart from this, using this print statement, we can just simply print any other things as well. Also, you can see that this is another advantage of Cloud9 IDE, or basically any IDE, that is, whenever you use any kind of function, then it automatically gives you the syntax of that particular function. So if you are a particular newbie you are not familiar with any of the functions, or you are confused in its syntax, then you can use this help from Python IDE or Cloud9 IDE itself. Okay, so in the brackets I can write any kind of expression like 3 plus 4. Let us just save it and run it. So after this, what will happen is we would be able to get the output of this 3 plus 4. So again, we need to wait for a few seconds. Right. Till it's being displaying us the output on the terminal. It's running. And you can see we are getting the output as 7, which is the result of 3 plus 4. However, if we just write any other print statement and we use the same expression, that is 3 plus 4, but instead of writing it as an expression, if we just write it in single quotes, then what happens? Now this 3 plus 4 is treated as a string value. That means this 3 plus 4 would be printed and not its result would be printed, right? So basically, the purpose of telling you this thing is to make sure you know that how this print statement works. Okay, in case your this my file.py, or basically any file that you have created, if it is taking a lot of time to run, then what you can do is you can just click on this stop button, right? So what will happen, this running would be stopped. Then what you can do, if you want to execute this file, you can see this is this bash terminal. You can come to this bash terminal and here you can execute your file. Okay, so what is the command that you need to follow? I have actually used this command to firstly execute this file. So I'm just going to clear the terminal. Right. So this is what you are going to see. To execute any of the Python files, what you need to do is write the command Python, the name of the file, which is in my case is myfile.py, and then press enter. So what will happen? You would be instantly able to get the output, right? So you can see when we just printed this expression in the form of a string, we were getting this 3 plus 4 like this. So if you are using the strings, so as it is, whatever you have given the input would be printed on the terminal. Now, if we just combine these two statements, then what we can write is another print statement, and we can write 3 plus 4 equals to, and whatever the result of 3 plus 4 is. So we can just use this plus operator. This is used to combine the two outputs. Why we need to combine it? Because these are two different types of outputs, right? This is going to give me the string output, and this is going to give me an numerical output. That is why I've used this plus to just combine these two outputs. Now if I just execute this command once again, that is python myfile.py. So let me just write, actually, yeah. So what you can do is, once you have written this command, you can just press the up arrow key from your keyboard and that command would be copied, so you don't need to write it again. Now, okay, so I didn't save it, that's why I was getting the old output again. Now if I just save it and again, now I try to execute it, then you can see, okay, we are getting some error. Now why are we getting this error? What happens, we are trying to get the integer or the numerical output from it, and this is giving us the string output. So what does Python says, that you need to just make sure that there is only one type of output that you are getting from this print function. When you are printing this integer, so make sure all the integers are printed. When you are trying to print a string, make sure all the strings are printed. So in this case, what I can do is just outside this parentheses, I can write str. So what will this str do? It will just convert this 3 plus 4 for me and basically help me to just view the output as per my wish, that is 3 plus 4 equals 7 here, like this. Okay, So this is one important thing that you need to remember. Now one more thing is the input function. What is the usage of this input function? Suppose you want to take an input from the user, then how can you do that? So for this we have an input function. In the input function you can just provide any message. Suppose enter any number, and this is your input function, right? Now whatever input we get, we can just store it anywhere, let's say in a variable called b. Then what we can do is we can just print the value of this variable. So we can just write print b like this. Okay, now we can just save it and run it using the terminal. So let us just get this command. Now what I'm getting is enter any number. So let me just enter 23. Okay, now if I press enter, then you can see this 23 is being printed as the output. So basically if you want to take any input from the user, then you can use this input function. You can provide any message, and this message will help you to take input from the user, right? Now as you can see, we use this enter any number, and then this number was entered here only. But if I want it to come to the next line, then I can use this character known as \n, or I think this would help me to take the output to the next line. Let us just check it. Yeah, so as I entered \n, this takes my cursor to the next line, and here I can enter the number, let's say 27. And now if I press enter, so I'm getting the output as 27. Also using the print function over here, we can just customize it that your output is 27, or you have entered 27 as your output, or whatever customization we want. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDUP Technologies and Services. In the previous video, we saw the usage of this input function and the print function. Okay, so basically in this video, we are going to understand the different data types that are available in Python. Okay, so up till now we have understood that at least there are two types of data that we can use in Python. One is the string and the other is the integers or the numbers. However, they are not just the two data types being used in Python. Python has a collection of varied data types, right? So if you want to use any data type, you can just invoke it and use it, right? Suppose we have b, in which we are prompting the user to enter a number, then we are printing this value of b. So suppose we just want to find out that what type of variable is b. So what we can do is we have a function in Python that is known as a type function, and this type function can be used to print the type of any variable. This b is a variable, so we can just print its type using the type function. So what we have done over here is, firstly we have used the print function. Why? Because we want to print the type of b in the terminal. Then we have used the type function to find out the type of b. So we can just save it, and in our terminal we can just write the command python, put a space, then write the name of your file, that is myfile.py, right? And we run it. So we are supposed to enter any number. Let's enter 45, press enter. Then you can see we are getting this kind of an output, that is class str. Now what does this means? Actually all the data types in Python are stored or are organized in the form of classes. So the class str means that this data type is of str type or string type. However, this b is accepting the number, so how come it is of string type? Well, the simple explanation is that this input function, whenever it accepts any kind of input from the user, it automatically converts it to string. because we don't know that what the user may enter. We may want the user to enter a string value, we may want the user to enter a number, we may want the user to enter any other thing. So whatever the thing the user enters, it is automatically converted into string so that the user output is termed as valid. Then it is just treated as a particular output, okay, or a string output rather than a particular data type. So right now the data type of B is string. However, if we just want to change it to integer, then what we can do is we can use something known as typecasting. If you see over here, we have already used typecasting, that is, this gave us an integer output, so we converted it explicitly into string by just writing this str. So this is what is known as typecasting, that is, conversion of one data type into another is known as typecasting. Suppose here we just write that this B, we need to convert it to integer, right? So we can just write int, and in the parentheses we can specify this B, right? Okay, so let us just try to run it and see what happens. So yeah, we are getting some kind of an error. Let's see where the error is. Okay, so what we can do is, instead of writing this much of complicated code, what we can do is we can take another variable, let's say A, and in this A we can just typecast the value of B into an integer and store it. Now if we just try to print the value of A, then what happens? Let's just save it and we try to print it. So again we are getting error. Let me just quickly rectify it. So that's how the error is rectified. Actually, instead of providing parentheses around int, we had to provide it around B. Okay, so we are supposed to enter any number. Let's just enter 78 and let's press enter. So now you can see the type of this A variable is printed, which is integer in our case. So this is how we can just convert the data type from one type to another using typecasting, right? Suppose we declare any variable, let's say C, over here in Python and initialize it with a number, say 34, right? Then we use the print function to print the value of C. So 34 would be printed, right? However, if we just use the type function on this C, then what happens is, what type of variable will C be? So let us just try to see that with the help of this practical example itself. So we are supposed to enter a number, let's enter 56, press enter to make sure that Python accepts it. Now C is treated as an integer. Why? Because we, as soon as we just used this statement, so a number 34 was assigned to the variable C. Now this number is what is treated to just ensure that what the data type of this variable C will be. So in our case, we got the data type as 34, means the data as 34, and the data type automatically become integer, right? So there are different data types in Python. If you want to understand more about the data types, we can follow a simple online link, and that is W3 Schools. So let me just quickly open that link and show to you. So these are some of the data types that are available in Python. Actually, there are built-in data types, which means they are supported by Python by default. Okay, so if you're liking, or if you just want to store any kind of textual data, you can use string. For numeric data, we have these three different kinds of data types, that is int, float and complex. We have seen int, that is used to store numbers. However, if we want to store decimal numbers, then float is the data type to be used. So if we just go to console and instead of 34, suppose we just change the value of C to 34.89, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this input function from here. actually whole of this code I'm going to remove. If you don't want to remove your code, what you can do is you can just comment the code which you don't want to be executed, right? So I'm just going to comment my code. So how can you comment this? You can just select the code that you want to comment. You can go to edit. There is this comment option, and then there is this toggle comment option. Also there is a shortcut that is control \, so you can just use it. Now this code is commented, which means this code won't be executed by our IDE, right? Also this code also I'm just going to comment. So go to edit, comment, and toggle comment. Okay, so only this is the piece of the code that would be executed when I just run this file on my terminal. So python myfile.py. Actually I have not saved it, that's why I'm getting the whole output. So let me just provide any number and execute it, right? So we need to save it. That is very important, that every time you make changes to your file you need to save it, then only it would be showing you the correct output. So yeah, you can see the value of C is now 34.89 and we are getting its data type as float. The third one we have complex, which we would be taking a look later on. Then we have the sequence type, that is list, tuple, and range. So the sequence types of data are used to store the different data in the continuous or a discontinuous format. These are the data types that are somewhat advanced and they are known as the derived data types, right? Which means that if we are talking about a list, then list can contain a variety of textual data or a variety of numbers or a variety of Boolean data. So this means these data types are comprised of the basic data types, which are our text, numeric, and Boolean. Okay. Similarly, we have dict, that is used to contain the values in the form of a dictionary. Then we have two set types, that is set and frozen set. The Boolean type we have is bool, which is basically used to convert or just have two values, that is true and false. Then we have some of the binary types of data, which includes bytes, byte array, and memory view. So basically, if we talk about Python, the most important data types or the data types that are used frequently are string, int, float, and bool in the basic data types. And in the derived data types, we have list, tuple, set, and dictionary that are used widely and are the most popular ones. So if you are familiar with these, then you don't need to actually know all about the other data types and you would be good to go. So that's all for this video and thanks for watching. Everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDub Technologies and Services. In this video, we are going to see the practical applications of the different data types in Python. In the previous video, we saw the string data type, we saw the integer and the float data types. Also, we just printed their types, right? So from this video, we will be exploring about the other different data types as well. The other one is the complex data type. Suppose we just provide any kind of number like 9 and I provide some letters, say J. Then this data type becomes a complex data type. Let me just save this file and run it on my terminal. So you can see its type has changed to complex, which means a combination of the numbers as well as the characters. If we want to create a list, so for the creation of a list, the thing that is important is the presence of the square brackets. So anything that is written in the pair of these square brackets is said to be a type of a list. Okay, now these lists can have multiple values. These values could be like string values, or you can say integers, numbers, any values, right? So let us just create a list of, say, fruits. So we can just write apple, banana, and grapes. Okay, like this. So this will make a list of 3 elements or 3 you can say string values, that is apple, banana, and grapes. Now let us just save it and run it. So you can see on printing this C, or the variable that is containing the list, we are getting these 3 list elements. So basically all the list elements that you have created or you have stored in the list would be printed, and its data type is changed to list, right? That means it is going to contain a list of elements. Just like a list, we have another collection, and that is known as a tuple. The difference between list and tuple is in its logical level. However, if you don't want to go very deep, or you just want to understand that what is the difference between two, you can just identify it with the help of these symbols. In the case of the list, we have these square brackets in which the elements are stored or organized. However, in the case of a tuple, we have these curly braces in which these elements are stored. So we can just save it, and now if we just run this on our terminal, then you can see actually this refers to a set. These curly braces refer to a set. So you can see the set is also a collection of elements in which we are getting all these elements stored. So basically these curly braces are used to refer to a set. Okay, so if you write something with square brackets, then it is a list. If you write something within curly braces, then it is a set. If you want to create a tuple, you need to write it in the parentheses, right? So this is the thing that separates the 3 collections from one another. That is how they are represented. However, on the logical level, they are completely different. How they are different, we will discuss just a few seconds later. Yes, you can see, since I organized these fruit names or these different elements in parentheses, their type converted into tuple. Okay. Now we have another collection that is known as dictionary. So what is a dictionary? If we just remove this piece of code, this dictionary is actually used to store the values in the form of the key and a value pairs. So what happens in the case of a dictionary is we provide a key, and on the basis of that key we provide a particular value. Okay, so if you want to refer to that value, we can just refer to the key and the value would be referenced automatically. Suppose we just create a dictionary over here, and the first key that we are going to have is going to be name, right? So name is a key. Then we can just write it in the curly braces for the dictionary as well. The key is in the single quotes because it is a string value. Then provide a colon, put a space, then the value of name, let's say John Doe. So John Doe, right? So this is one key value pair. The key over here is name and its value is John Doe. You can put a comma and then you can provide another key. Suppose I provide like his salary. So I can just write salary, then again put a colon, and then I can just provide any number, let's say 35,000. Okay, so this means there are 2 keys, name and salary, and these 2 keys have 2 values, that is John Doe and 35,000. If I just save it and run it, then what happens? You can see on printing this, I'm getting the whole values, that is name of the person, that is John Doe, and its salary as 35,000. The type of this object is a dictionary, that is DICT. Then we have another type known as the Boolean value or the Boolean type. Suppose we, instead of this dictionary, we write a value, say true, into this C. Okay, so you can see true has changed its color to red. That means true has some specified meaning in Python. If we just save it and run this piece of code, then you can see this true is treated as a Boolean value. Why? Because Boolean is another data type in Python that is used to store the true and the false values. Okay, just like this, we have some other data types as well, such as range. Suppose we write range function and provide a number, let's say 4. Then what happens? Let's just save it and run it. So what happens now if we take a look at its value, or if we just try to print the value of C, then we are getting range 0, 4. So basically its type is range, as you can see from the last statement, that is class range. This means that this range function is used to create a range of numbers from 0 till 4. So this range function is used extensively whenever we are trying to work with the loops. So basically this is all about these data types that we have in Python. Each data type has its own usage and there are characteristics of each data types. So how can we use these different data types, or how can they be beneficial for us? This is what we will see in the next videos, right? For now, what we are going to see is a few examples of typecasting, right? So we have seen some of the examples of typecasting already. Let us just see a few more examples of typecasting. Suppose we just change this value of C to true. Okay, now if we just try to print its type, we will get boolean. However, if we just take another variable, let's say st or simply s, and in this we just try to store the value of C that is typecasted to string, like this. Okay, then what happens in this case? If we just print the type of this variable a, or we have this variable s, so we just try to print the type of the variable s. Actually, just a second. Yeah, so we need to typecast C into string. Okay, right, we can just save it and we can run it on our terminal. So what happens? First of all, when we just try to print the type of C, it's boolean, but since we use it to typecast it into string, so its type has been changed to string, right? Similarly, we can work with other data types as well to just change their types, right? Suppose we just create a variable, let's say li, to store a list. Okay, so we store a list of, say, apple, cherry and kiwi. That is the 3 fruits I have stored. Then what I decide later on is, okay, I don't want a list of these 3 fruits. I want a you can say tuple of these 3 fruits. So what can I do? I can create a new variable, let's say tu, and in it what can I do is I can just typecast it into tuple. So tuple, and that's li, that is what I want to typecast into a tuple type. Okay, now if I just try to print their both types, so first of all let's just print the type of list, that is li, then let's just print the type of this variable, that is tu. Okay, so if we just execute this here, yeah, okay, so we need to save it and then we can execute it. Here you can see, firstly its type is list, then it is converted into tuple. So that's all for the data types and typecasting in Python. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. In this video, we are going to take a look at the different operators that are available to us in Python. So before that, let us first understand that what is an operator and why do we need it. So an operator basically is a symbol that is used to perform a particular operation over the different variables, right? So there are different kinds of operators, so the different classes of the operators. So in Python also we have got different types of operators, like the arithmetic operators, the comparison operators, logical operators, etc. All these operators are used to perform a specific task, and as per our need we can use these operators to perform operations over our data, right? So first of all we will start with the arithmetic operators. Here are all the arithmetic operators that are available to us in Python along with their meanings and examples. First of all, we will try to take a look at what their functionalities are, and then we will just try to explore them practically on our Cloud9 IDE. So the first operator we have is the plus operator that is used to add two or more operands. Like you can see, if there are any numerical variables, it can add them. Also, if there are some numbers, it can add them as well. Then we have this minus sign, which is used for the operation of subtraction. So if you want to subtract the operands, you can just use the subtraction. The asterisk is used to multiply two or more operands. This slash is used to divide the left operand by the right one. And this is one interesting example or interesting case in Python, that whenever we use this division operator, it always gives us a float value. That is, always a decimal value will be produced. Okay. And this case is only specific in Python, so you need to make sure that you remember this rule very much clearly, because it is something that is very important. Next we have is a modulus operator that is used to give us the division after just dividing the left operand by the right one. Like if we divide x by y, then whatever the remainder is, it would be returned by this modulus operator. Then we have these double slashes, which is known as this floor division operator. It is only available in Python, and with the help of the floor division operator, we are able to get the whole number or whatever integer we want that is returned. Suppose we use 6 divided by 3. This single slash we use 6/3. Then in that case, this division operator in the case of Python will return 2.0 as the quotient, because it always returns a float value. However, if we just use a floor division in this case, that is 2 slashes, it will return just a simple 2. Similarly, if we just use something else, say 2 divided by or you can say 5 divided by 2, in that case this floor division would return 2, while this divide operator would return 2.5. Okay. Then we have these double asterisks, which act as an exponent, that is left operand raised to the power of right. So suppose you want to find 2 to the power 3, so you can just write 2 double asterisk 3, and that would return 8. Now there are these arithmetic operators. Let's see their practical example on our Cloud9 IDE. So I'm just going to select all this code that we have written up till now and make sure that I comment it all. So toggle the comment. Right, now I can just clear the terminal as well from here. So if you want to clear up your terminal, you can just use the clear command. Okay, and the terminal would be cleared up. Here what I'm gonna do is just start writing my code. So if I just use this print statement, then whatever operation I just write over here, it would be performed. Okay. So I can just again clear it up and use my command, that is python space myfile.py, to run it. Okay, I forgot to save it. You must remember, every time you make some changes to your file, you should save it. Okay, so yeah, you can see 7 is the output. So that is the first operand, that is the plus operand. Okay, next we have the subtraction operand. Suppose 5 minus 2, and if we just run it, so we get 3 as the output. The third was the multiplication operand. So if we just want to multiply two numbers, let's say 6 multiplied by 8, in this case what would happen? Let's just try to run it. So you can see the multiplication of 6 and 8, that is 48, is printed. So this is an interesting thing. That is the example of our floor division. Actually the normal division example. First of all, let's say 7 divided by 2, and we want to do, this would bring us a decimal point. Okay, and 6 divided by 2. Okay, so these are the two operations that I'm trying to perform. Let's see what it brings us as the result. So you can see in the first case 3.5 is produced, which is absolutely correct. However, in the second case 3.0 is produced, which is also in the floating type, but 3 would have been sufficient. right? So this is what we wanted to tell you through this division operator, that it always returns a float as the result. However, if I just use the float division, that is instead of a single slash, if I just write 2 slashes, then let's see what happens. I'm taking these same two cases, but the only difference is I'm just using a float division operator on them right now. Okay, so let's just save it, and here we can just run it. So you can see in both the cases we are getting 3 as the output, because here also it has changed. This float division operator has changed the quotient or adjusted the quotient to give a whole number, that is 3. And in the case of 6 divided by 2 also, it has adjusted to give 3 as the answer, which is 3 is absolutely correct in the second case, but if we take the first case, it is wrong. So this is the difference between the division and the float division operator, which you need to keep in mind every time you are using them. Next, we have the modulus operator. So if we just use the modulus operator on, say, 7 mod 2, then it would give me the remainder of 7 and 2. So in the case of 7 and 2, we would be getting 1 as the remainder. So yeah, 1 is given as the remainder. Suppose we just use it on the second case, that is 6 mod 2. In this case, the 0 would be returned as the remainder, as you can see over here. Okay, now we have done the addition operator, we have done the subtraction operator, we have done the multiplication operator, we have done 2 examples of the division operator as well, and the float division and the modulus operator. The only operator remaining in arithmetic is the exponent operator. So suppose we write print 2 asterisk asterisk 4. Then what will it do? It will return 2 raised to the power 4, that means 16. So if you see, the result of this is essentially 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, that is 2 multiplied 4 times. Okay, this I have written a comment. The comment is not actually parsed by the interpreter. It is the comments are just written to understand the code in a better way. So if I have written the comment over here, someone who is reading the code will understand that okay, 2 double asterisk 4 means that this operation would be carried out. Also, if you just want to skip some piece of code from its execution, you just comment it out like we did with the previous code here. Okay, now that's all about the arithmetic operators. Let us move to other operators. So these are the second classes of the operator. Actually, these are the second classes of operators that we are trying to see. The logical operators. So we have 3 logical operators: the AND, OR, and the NOT operators. The AND operator or operator actually perform their operations on at least 2 operands, and NOT operand or NOT operator actually needs just a single operand. That's why these two are known as binary operators, and NOT is known as a unary operator. Okay, so AND actually requires at least 2 operands, and it returns true only if both the operands are true. Okay, so if you just see an example, x and y, so if both the values of x and y are true, then AND operator returns true. Otherwise, if any one is false, it returns false. OR operator checks that if either of them is true, that means if either x is true or y are true or both are true, then in that case true will be returned. In the case of OR operator, it returns false only if both are false. The NOT operator is used to negate or complement the value. So if you have true, it will complement it to false, and if it is false, it will complement it to true. So these are the 3 logical operators that we have in Python. We will see its practical applications and other operators in the next video. That's all for this video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZDUP Technologies and Services. In the previous video, we learned about the arithmetic and the logical operators in Python. So in this video, we are first going to see the other operator categories that we have and try to explore their usage. After that, we will be practically seeing them by implementing them on our Cloud9 IDE. So the next category of the operators that we have is known as the comparison operator. If we talk about the comparison operators, so we have around 6 comparison operators available with us in Python. They are used to compare the values. And one important characteristic of comparison operators is that they require at least 2 operands on which they can act, or on which they can just perform their operation, and they always return a boolean value, which is either true or false depending upon the condition. The first comparison operator is the greater than operator, that is used to test if the value of the left hand side of the operand is greater than the right hand side or not. If the value of the left operand is greater, it returns a true value. As you can see in the example, here true is returned if x is greater than y. Just opposite of this greater than operator, we have the less than operator, which returns true if the value of the left hand operand is less than that of the right hand operand. Which means if the value of x is less than y, then it will return true. Equal to operator returns true if the value of both the operands are equal. Suppose we have two variables. In one variable, we have stored the number 6, and in the other variable, we have stored an expression 4 plus 2. So when we equate those variables using this equal to operator, then it will return true. And if their values are different, then it would return false. We denote it by writing two equal signs. Just like the equality, we can also compare the non-equality, which is the not equal to operator. It returns true if the two operands are not equal to one another. So the way of writing it is an exclamation mark and an equal sign. Then we have greater than or equal to operator. This operator is used to check if the value of the left hand operand is greater than or equal to the value of the right hand operand. If either of these conditions are true, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. That is only one case in which this greater than or equal to operator returns false, and that is when the value of x is less than the value of y. However, if we talk about this greater than operator, then it returns false in two cases: if the value of x is equal to the value of y, or if the value of x is greater than or is actually less than the value of y. Similar to the greater than or equal to operator, we have a less than or equal to operator that is used to check if the value of the left hand operand is less than or equal to the value of the right hand operand. In this case, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So these are all the comparison operators which we have in Python. Next, we have the assignment operators. So these are all the assignment operators. Basically, the work of these operators, these assignment operators, is to assign the values, right? So they are very simple to use. Let us just take a quick look at them. The first one is the single equals operator. So what does this operator do? It is used to assign the value. So if you remember, when we just worked with the variables and we used to assign some values to them, or we just used to assign any expression to them, we use this equal sign. So this is exactly what this purpose is for, what it is used for, that is to assign the value to a variable. Okay, so for example, here the value of x would be 5 now. Then we have these bunch of operators. These all operators are known as the shorthand assignment operators, right? So what is their purpose? They help us to just easily write our code, and they just help us to reduce the you can say symbols that we write in a line. So this is this plus equal to operator, which is used to perform two operations, that is the addition operation and the assignment operation, right? So we can write it like this: x plus equals to 5, and it is going to mean that x equals x plus 5, which means we want to increment the value of x by 5. So similarly, we have other operators. These are all the arithmetic operators, like subtraction equal to, so it is going to decrement the value of x, and asterisk equal to, which is used to multiply the value, Division equals, which is used to divide the value and return the floating point as the quotient. Modulus equal to, which is again used to divide the value and return the remainder. Then this double slash equal to, or the flow division equals to, which is used to return the integer part or the whole number part in the case of the quotient. Then we have this double asterisk equal to, which is used to just raise the value of x to a power of a number specified, and it is expanded to this. So these shorthand assignment operators could be applied on the arithmetic operators, all these arithmetic operators. Then we have these operators which are known as the bitwise operators. Okay, so as you can see, this ampersand, this pipe sign, this caret sign, this sign and this sign, these are left shift and the right shift signs, and this is the logical and, logical or, and logical not. So for this purpose we need to understand the bitwise operators first, but as of now you can understand that okay, they are used to just perform the bitwise operations respectively over the value of x. So these are all the assignment operators. Now let us just understand the different bitwise operators that we have. So these are the 6 bitwise operators that are available. Let us see. This is a single and or a single ampersand, which is used to refer to bitwise and if we just write x and y, so it returns 0. What does it means? If you remember, we learned about logical and, logical or, and logical not operators. So in that we saw that and is an operator that returns true if both the conditions are true. So what will it do over here is it will just operate on that principle, that is, it will return true if both the conditions are true. However, since we are talking about the bitwise operators, so these operators will operate on individual bits instead of operating on the whole number. Suppose I write the value of x as 2 and the value of y as 0. In that case, what will happen? X would be stored in a bitwise fashion. The value of 2 would be stored in a bitwise fashion, which is 0, 0, 1, 0. And the value of y would also be stored in a bitwise fashion, which is 0, 0, 0, 0. Now, if we just try to ampersand them, ultimately the result would be 0 because we won't be getting any kind of a true value. Which means if 2 1s are present at the same place, then only we would be getting a 1 in the result with the ampersand operator, right? So this was bitwise and. Just like bitwise and, we have bitwise or, which is used to return the true value in the case either of the values are true, or if both the values are true, then also it returns true, which means if we just do 2 or 0, then it would give us the result as 2. Then we have bitwise not, which is used to complement any kind of value. Suppose you have a 1, it would change it to 0, and if you have a 0, it would change it to 1, and it is represented by this tilde sign. Then we have this caret sign, which is for bitwise XOR. This is the XOR operation, which is used to just operate on a similar principle of individual bits as well, and it returns 1 when different values are present. Like if 1 0 or 0 1 are present, then the XOR operation is used to return 1. Otherwise, if both the zeros or both the ones are present, then the XOR operation will return 0. Then we have the bitwise right shift and the bitwise left shift. So basically the function of these two operators are similar to one another, but they are different from all the other bitwise operators. If we talk about the right shift, here is the sample or the example, that is x right shift 2. So what will it do? It will just shift all the bits to the right. How many bits by or how many places? It will shift by 2 places. So whatever we do, whatever we provide over here, it will just right shift the bits by that number of places. Similarly, we have bitwise left shift operator, which is used to shift the bits towards the left by how many places, that is given by this number. Okay, so basically we have seen these operators as well, and we will see their practical applications in the next video after discussing the operators that are remaining in Python. That's all for this video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by ZTUP Technologies and Services. So in this video, we are first going to take a look at a few operators which we left from the previous video. Then we would be seeing the practical applications of these operators in our Cloud9 IDE. So the two categories of the operators which were left for discussion, the first one is the membership operator. So in the membership category, we have two operators, the in and the not in operators. These operators are basically used to check that if the value is present in the sequence or not. If we talk about sequence, then the sequence are the data types, or the sequences include the data types such as list, sets, dictionaries, and tuples. So basically we are going to check with the help of the membership operator that whether a particular value is present in the sequence or not. So we have the in operator that returns true if the value is present in the sequence, like you can use 5 in x. So suppose x is a list, so we can check that if 5 is present in the list. If it is present, the in operator will return true, otherwise it will return false. Similarly, we have the not in operator, which is just the complement of the in operator, that is, it is used to check the absence of the values in the particular sequence. So if we just write 5 not in x, then it will return true if 5 is not present in x, and it will return false if 5 is present in x, which can be any sequence, right? Next, we have the two special operators, that is known as the is and the is not operators. So the is operator is used to check if the operands are identical or they refer to the same object. If it is the case, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. Similarly, we have is not operator, which is used to check that whether the two operands are not identical. If they are not identical, then the is not operator returns true, otherwise it returns false if they are of identical types. Apart from that, we can also consider type as an operator if you want. So type basically tells us the data type of the particular variable, and it could be used as an operator or as a function as well. So this is all about the operators in Python. Let us now just understand their practical applications on the Cloud9 IDE. Okay. So here is our Cloud9 environment all set to just work with. Let us just start working with the comparison operators in it, right? So first of all, we can just write comparison operators. Okay. So I'm just going to use each and every operator, and I will show you its applications as well, or basically how it generates that output. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take two variables, let's say x, initialize it with 12, and a variable y, and I'm going to initialize it with 8. So there are these two values, and I'm going to compare them through various comparison operators, and whatever the result is, I'm just going to print it. So the first is x greater than y. Then we have print the value of x less than y. Then we have print the third comparison operator was double equals to, so we can just write x double equals y. The fourth one was not equals to, so we can just write x not equals y. Then we had greater than equals to, so we can just write x greater than equals y, and then we had the value of x less than equals to y, right? So these were the comparison operators, the 6 comparison operators which we studied. So let us just save it using Ctrl S, and what we can do is we can make a few adjustments in the syntax like this, and then we can just save it and run it here. So we can just write the command python myfile.py and press enter. So okay, we are not getting the correct output, so let us make sure we have saved it correctly. Then we, if again try to run it, okay, so the previous one didn't work. That's why what we did was I just copied all of this code and pasted it over here. So it is because of the some problems related to, I think, storage that we are facing right now. So I will just quickly resolve this issue, but for right now we can just understand the output that is being generated by this file, that is operators.py. okay, so the first case we are getting true, which means that is correct. 12 is greater than 8. Second case is bringing us false. Third case is bringing us false again because these two values are not equal. Fourth case, when we are checking inequality, so it is giving us true, which means yes, these two values are unequal. Then in this case we have the fifth case, x is greater than equals to y, which is absolutely correct. That's why we are getting true. And in the very last value we are getting false as the output. So these were the comparison operators. Let us now just take a look at the logical operators that we have available with us in Python. So the logical operators, we can just write, what we are actually going to do is we are just going to combine two conditions. Okay, so what does the logical operators require is at least the presence of two conditions, and to combine those two conditions we need actually the conditions from the comparison operators itself. Okay, so now we know what operator or what value each of these conditions are going to return to us, so that what we can do is we can just make a fairly easy comparison between them. We can simply write, suppose the two true values like x is greater than y, then we can just use the AND operator. Then the second condition we are going to compare is x is not equals to y. Okay, similarly for the OR, we can just copy the same condition and paste it here for OR, and for the NOT as well. Okay, so for the NOT operator actually we require only one condition, we don't require two conditions. So you can simply just write NOT and the condition like this. So let us just save it and run it like this. Okay, so what we can do is we can just comment this code out, and now we can just save it and run it. Okay, actually these two values have also been commented, so we don't need to do that, so that we know what are the values of x and y. Let's just save it again, and now if we run it, so yeah, we are getting true, true and false. Both the conditions were true, so AND returned true. Both the conditions were true, so OR returned true. And this condition returned true, but since we use the NOT operator, so we got false as the result. Suppose if we change one condition over here, that means this condition is gonna return true, but this condition is gonna return false. Similarly, if we just put here as well, save it and run it on the terminal, then what happens? You can see, if one condition is true and one condition is false, then in that case the AND operator returns false as the result. However, the OR operator returns true. The NOT operator ultimately returns false as it negates the true value. Okay, so these are the different logical operators. If we just work with the assignment operators, so the assignment operator 1 is used over here. We know we can use the different assignment operators, right? So I'm just going to show you a very simple example of, suppose x plus equals 5. I used this operator. Then suppose if I just try to print the value of x, then what happens? Let me just save it and run it on the terminal. So you can see I'm getting the value 17 because this is a shorthand assignment operator which stands for x equals x plus 5. Okay. Next we have the bitwise operators, the membership operators and the special operators left. So the membership and the special operators will be discussed when we would be discussing about the sequences in detail. Right now for the bitwise operators, we can just simply understand their examples. in the next video, because that's all for this video.